What's up? Hello, everyone. Welcome into Fantasy Filmball, the show where we turn movies into sports and sports into something we don't talk about here. My name is Matt.
My name's Dyl, and we have just wrapped up the 2025 Oscar season because the Academy Awards wrapped up, and who would have guessed that Anora not just swept the night, but it won almost all of its nominations, including ones that we all had really written off, like editing. Who thought Anora would win editing? But guess what? It did, and we're here. We just watched the show. We had fun. I'll be honest, I've had a lot of these, so we're flowing here. But I had to represent Brutalist because I've been hating this film all year long. Hating in air quotes. I like the movie, denying its awards chances, but I'll be man here and own up. It ended up winning what, 3 Oscars?
3 Oscars. Yeah, we're celebrating the Anora sweep. We're celebrating all of this that has happened. But before we get into all of the celebrations, how did you do on predictions? Because I did terribly this year.
Yeah, I mean, there's 2 ways to look at this. You look at everything overall. Shorts really killed me. And I know everyone says every year, oh my gosh, the shorts kill me. But this year, the shorts really did. I went 0-3 in the shorts categories. And I did go with a consensus in 2 of them. But another category, I went my own way. And it still didn't go my own way. I went to the consensus one in that one. So I diverted there. But in terms of the main awards, we had 19 of them. I got all but 2 right, editing and Best International Feature did not go my way. So I think I did pretty solid overall. Just some misses that in retrospect, I can't be too mad about who saw Anora winning editing. And we were so confident in Emilia Perez, and 100 times out of 100, I'm still going to project Emilia Perez to win an international feature over I'm Still Here.
Yeah, I did not do well. I mean, the shorts really screwed me. But I mean, damn, the English language thing in live action short that broke. That's crazy. So that's only the 3rd short in the last decade to not be in English to win. So, Alien really was the one that made sense to win. And then the other 2 shorts, I mean, there goes the Annie stat that I was saying down the drain. Although the English or silent stat holds for In the Shadow of the Cypress. And in terms of documentary, man, this category always kills me. I thought that The Only Girl in the Orchestra, terrible winner. Terrible, terrible winner. But it makes sense because Netflix is backing it. So maybe the correct way to predict this category is just go with whatever is uplifting and has money behind it. I don't know. But outside of that, I tried to call upsets in multiple different categories. But the only upset that really happened was Anora in best editing. And I guess I'm Still Here in international, although the betting odds were 81% for I'm Still Here. So I'm not sure most people would call that an upset. I know we would, but otherwise, I overthought it. I overthought it in documentary. I overthought it in cinematography. I was doing my overthinking thing, and I could have just gone with the easy answer, and I would have done a lot better than 15 out of 23.
I mean, it's the age-old question. It's what we went head-to-head about in our final predictions video. Vibes versus stats. Which one trumps at the end of the day? Or usually stats leads to the right direction. To quote Dune, it leads you to paradise. But in some cases, it's just vibes. And we went with the stats for Emilia Perez, an international feature. Clearly, the vibes in the room were I'm Still Here. And that carried over to animated and honestly carried over to documentary as well. All 3 of the specialized categories all went more for vibes this year than what the stats and what history would tell us is the way to go in that category.
Those 3 specialized categories, very, very, very cool. I mean, flow happening at the top of the show, that told me this is a changed academy. This is
Such
an
a cool
academy
win.
that is different than before, right? They have never, if given a choice between an American studio movie and a small independent foreign film, they are never going to go for the independent foreign film. And they did. They did it, and it wasn't Hayao Miyazaki, right? That's the only time when they've gone for foreign films in animation. And with that followed by In the Shadow of the Cypress, a really cool, beautifully done animated short from Iran. With those two films winning back to back, it made me feel like, damn, I think the Academy is beginning to respect animation or take it a little bit more seriously than they have in the past. I remember my heart breaking years ago when I read so many anonymous ballots back in like 2014, 2015, where voters would just write off the animation categories altogether as like, this is shit for babies. And here we are with two of the coolest winners in the animated categories that I think I've ever seen.
Overall, this night, I think it had a lot of inspired winners, and there wasn't really many winners that were completely out of left field where you sit back at the end of the day and be like, what was that all about? Because even the surprising winners, they make sense in the grand scheme of things of how the night played out overall. Like, yeah, like editing, most people thought it was Conclave versus Wicked with maybe a small shot for Emilia Perez, but I guess they clearly loved Anora, and they checked Anora in every possible box they could outside of supporting actor, which, again, is not a category where most people expected Anora to be all season long until it was there. So the nomination was really the win there, clearly shown they checked his name for the nomination, but when it came time for the win, they went over to Culkin. But the other five, Anora dominant. So why don't we talk about all five of those categories here? Because it won picture, director, actress, screenplay, editing, just purely dominated the night. And there was all this talk about Anora. Oh my gosh, it's performing so bad at all these award shows. It can only win Best Picture, the top prize at these places. And then we get to the Oscars, and it wins almost everything.
Dude, that's crazy that Anora went from winning like one award max at every single award show before now, right? Yeah, like, yeah, it won the PGA, but that's just one award. They've won the DGA, that's just one award. At Critics' Choice, it just won Best Film. At the BAFTAs, it won two. It won Mikey and it won casting, but
Essentially one
still,
award.
it's essentially one award because casting is just like it's like a coattail win for whoever's winning one of the acting categories. So it goes from that. And I heard so many people online saying, are we really going to predict that Anora wins all of the awards this one time? No, no, it wins two or three. It wins two or three. That's it. Five awards. And I was worried when original screenplay came around. My heart was beating a little bit. I was like, I don't know if it's going to be Anora. I don't know if they're going to do it. I don't know if they're going to do it. But when editing happened and they read Anora, I went, oh my God,
It's a sweep.
it's over. It is over. There's nothing else that can win. It's crazy. It's crazy. Like I still think Anora could have won Best Picture without editing because, as we've been saying, editing is not a good matchup with Best Picture most of the time. I mean, past few years would say differently, but most of the time you don't need editing to win Best Picture. But having editing as that movie, unstoppable at that point.
Yeah, and I think what this win tells me, at least going forward for predicting, is if a movie is that strong and it's that beloved, and the number two doesn't make the most sense, because we had all this conversation from when Anora had that amazing weekend, is what is number two? Is it Wicked? Is it Conclave? Is it The Brutalist? Is it I'm Still Here, Emilia Perez? And then we saw Conclave win BAFTA and SAG. Like, okay, I guess it's number two, but it's not a very strong number two. The question comes down to is, if that number one is so strong, it's so beloved, I guess it can just rack up awards in the way that we see like Oppenheimer and everything everywhere overperform and win in other places. And like this year, Anora's overperformance, we thought it would be director, but it turns out it's actually editing.
I think what this year's teaching me above all else is passion reigns supreme. Passion
Mm-hmm.
above all else, passion is what wins, right? Clearly, there's passion for Anora. It got five awards. But then you look at those specialized categories like we were talking about before, right? Flow, that's a film with a lot of passion versus The Wild Robot, which definitely more people have seen, but Flow has passion. When you think about I'm Still Here, that's a film with passion behind it. People love that movie, and that's what can get that to an international feature win. No other land, there is passion and support behind that film. And even you look at the three categories that The Brutalist won, right? That's another film with passion. And those, those, even though, in cinematography that had only won the British bodies, that was a film that had enough passion to grow and to really triumph here. So I think in future years, the films I'm always going to be looking at are the ones that have the most number ones, not the films like Conclave that, everyone likes, but how many people are putting it number one everywhere.
And I guess to go back to Anora a little bit, we said, it's won so many awards tonight, and I mean Walt Disney move over Sean Baker, 4 awards in one night. That's just so crazy to me because even going back all the way to Cannes last year, from when people like yourself saw it at the film festival and went on to win the Palme d'Or, people said this movie's great, but its Oscar chances, what are they? Is it just screenplay? Is it picture and screenplay? Is it picture Madison and screenplay? But people weren't including editing at that time. People weren't including director at that time. And it's just crazy that, like you're saying, the passion for Anora was so strong and it pushed its way with that DGA win to win in director, even though it lost the BAFTA and Critics' Choice. That WGA win helped propel it in the original screenplay. And then we go to leading actress, which was this huge conversation in our final predictions video here, where you gave amazing statistical rundown of why the stats kind of do back up Demi Moore, but the vibes and that one BAFTA win and the stronger film support Mikey Madison. That's why we ultimately went with her at the end of the day. And it's just so weird how, like, a month ago, there was this huge conversation of what is the front runner for Best Picture, and all it took was one weekend of 3 awards going Anora's way to be like, no, it's Anora and droves.
I want to hold my win here. I want to hold it high. I want to hold it proud. I saw Anora back in May, and before the Palme d'Or was announced, I put Anora as my number one in Best
He
Picture,
did.
Best Screenplay, Best Actress. All the way back in May, I felt it. I felt the vibes. I felt the love in that room. I said back in my Cannes vlogs that at the final moments of Anora, that scene in the car where they look at each other and she's on top of him and she begins to cry and it cuts to black. I said in that room, I could feel something. I could feel this energy. And that's what made me put this at the top of my list all the way back before it won the Palme d'Or at Cannes. I'm incredibly proud of that prediction. This has not been a great year for me in terms of predictions, so I'm glad that I can say that I predicted Anora from the second I saw it before all of the buzz began for the film. Um, I'm so happy we stuck with Mikey Madison. We we are 2 years,
Two for
two for
two.
two running on calling the upset. Not even the upset, but like
The
we're
clear winner.
yeah, the winner who is tied to the stronger film. Actually, I think we're 3 for 3 because we also did Michelle Yeoh.
I don't remember what I did that year. I know I was personally hoping for Kate Blanchett, but I think I went Yo because, like you said, it's the stronger film. It was a movie of the moment. Jamie Lee Curtis was coming along, so how could you not do Michelle Yeoh? But yeah, for Nora, I mean, the hats go off to you. You did project this, and you did stay with it for the whole year outside of like 2 days when you had Emilia Perez overtake it. But it wasn't just for the wins. It wasn't just for the wins. You also projected your Borisov all the way back then, and I have to hold my L for that one. I was like, Matt, no one else at Cannes even has them in remote consideration. The people who are saying Anora's the greatest film of the year, they don't even have him in their top 10, top 15. And you're like, no, I see something in this performance. Was it that last scene? Was it the whole film overall? I don't know. But like, you stuck to it. And ultimately, people came around to it and backed you up. And I mean, again, 2 years in a row. I had the same feeling with American Fiction with Sterling K. Brown last year. This year, you have it for Borisov. So I'm excited for 2026. Who's that going to be here? Who's going to be the performance where one of us catches one where no one else is backing? And like, no, this is happening. It's not going to happen for a win, but a nomination, book it everywhere.
Yeah. And I do want to say, like, yes, Mikey Madison won, and I'm so excited about that. I know that the fans of both Fernanda Torres and Demi Moore are going to be very upset about this. And I do want to say that I think both of them will have more chances. I do. I think Fernanda Torres is such an incredible performer. She is going to be in more films that get Oscar recognition. For sure, she will. She is so good and she got such widespread recognition. This is not her last rodeo at the Oscars. I don't think this is her last rodeo. Now, for her mother, Fernanda Montenegro, she was not able to get another chance after Central Station after losing to Gwyneth Paltrow. I don't think that'll be the same for Fernanda Torres. We will see her at the Oscars again. And Demi Moore, I believe the same. I absolutely believe the same. I think we need to leave the days behind where we say we have to give it to the older performer because the younger performer is going to have another shot. We don't know that. We don't know that Mikey Madison is going to have another shot, right? She's new, she's freshly established in this industry. I'm sure she will have more chances, but I think that the rhetoric of, well, Demi Moore is in her 60s. She might not get another chance. I think we should leave that behind. Demi Moore is going to have another shot. I think so. I believe it in my core. I think she'll have another shot. And I just beg from the bottom of my heart, please, fans of Demi Moore, fans of Fernanda Torres, Mikey Madison is not your enemy because she won an award over your favorite. Let's just celebrate a really great performance the way that I know I would have been celebrating either way if Fernanda Torres or Demi Moore won. So that's what I have to say there.
Well, let's use that to springboard to celebrate Fernanda Torres. I'm Still Here at one international feature. We heard the comments. We saw the comments in the last video. How can you expect Emilia Perez to win more than 2 awards in the climate right now? I mean, this is an example of where the stats back that up. Even after the controversy, Emilia Perez continued to win again and again and again. An international feature in song and with Zoe Saldana. And here we saw at the Oscars, this is the first time ever we've had 2 international feature nominees in this category duking it out. Last year, sadly, France let us down by not selecting Anatomy of a Fall. And I guess this is kind of France's payback. You didn't select Anatomy last year. You have Emilia. Well, guess what? We're not going to give you the win again. We're going to give it over to I'm Still Here with Brazil. And I think I'll get a little bit of flack for this. I think both of these movies are very good. If I was voting for one, I'd probably go with I'm Still Here. So I'm happy with the win between these two. And I think it's a very cool, it's a very inspired one. It shows that the total number of nominations doesn't showcase the full story. You have to go more. It's something that we've talked about before, and I'm going to keep mentioning throughout this episode because I think it is really the key of the 2025 Oscars overall. It's vibes, it's feels, it's emotions, and clearly all 3 of those were behind I'm Still Here this year.
And I will also just say, I don't think that the reason that Emilia Perez lost is because it lost supporters, right?
Bingo.
I'm going to keep banging this drum over and over. I don't think the tweets damaged Emilia Perez all that much. And people are going to be mad at me for saying that because they are every single time I say it. I think what happened here is not that Emilia Perez lost supporters or that people started to hate that movie. What happened is after I'm Still Here got the nomination, it was a movie that was introduced to like 80% of the Academy that had not seen it at that point. And it's the last thing. It's the last big movie that all of these voters saw. And so I think that has more to do with it than people dropping off of Emilia Perez. It's recency bias, it's passion that I'm Still Here had because the people that love I'm Still Here love it with their entire being. And that's what happened. Again, you can flame me for this. Emilia Perez still won 2 awards. I don't think it lost any support. It's just that I'm Still Here gained so much support over the past month or 2.
Yeah, I fully agree with that as well. I know, again, we've heard the comments, we've seen them, but we still stick to this notion that, yes, the controversy's out there. Maybe it affects a small portion of people, but for overall, the overwhelming majority of these voters, they didn't care at large, and they continued to vote for the movie they liked more. But like Matt said, I'm Still Here. Some people had seen it before the Oscar nominations. I know I was lucky enough to see it the night before, and I was searching for it. I was going out of my way to watch it. So there's a lot of people who wanted to see it but never had the opportunity. It gets that Best Picture nomination. It goes into wider release. It goes onto streaming platforms. They go out and watch it. They go out and love it for the most part. And clearly, We see that with the results here. But let's talk about Emilia Perez. It still won 2 of its 13 overall wins. I guess technically it sets a record of being the biggest loser in Oscar history with 11 L's on the night, but it still took home 2 W's, Zoe Saldana as well as El Mal. And like we said in our final predictions episode, these two, they're linked together. You can't watch Saldana without admiring El Mal, and you can't rock with El Mal without thinking Zoe Saldana killed that. And we see that with the wins here. And I mean, they were sweepers. They won everywhere imaginable, and they never let up, regardless of people's thoughts on the movie overall, and regardless of any outside perspectives or forces working against the film and the performances.
Granted, the movie was also a sweeper and international feature, and it did lose. So
Exactly.
there we go. But in terms of El Mal, Zoe Saldana, yes, they swept. Gotta mention, worst speech of the night, best song El Mal.
I mean, they kind of had the worst speech everywhere that they gave a speech, honestly. CCA, that speech was maybe even worse.
Yeah, it's just like the ramblings of two very odd French people. Um, I was at a loss for words when they started playing Camille off and she just kept singing. This is the woman who did the song for Ratatouille.
Amelia.
She did the song for Ratatouille. What happened? What happened?
I mean, Emilia Perez happened. I mean, granted, we tend to be the people who like this movie a little bit more than some of our contemporaries here, but like, yeah, that speech, whack. Zoe Saldana's, whoever her stylist was, she needs a new one. I don't know what that dress was. Not it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was Saint Laurent. I can't remember, but I know that Saint Laurent has done everything for Emilia Perez. Like they produced the movie, they
Hmm.
did the costumes for the movie, and I'm pretty sure they've done the styling for all of the nominees throughout the season. I think it was Saint Laurent, but I might be wrong about that.
But yeah, my girlfriend works in the fashion industry, and that's even the first thing she says. Like, I haven't seen the movie, but just seeing these outfits they have the people from the film wearing doesn't make me want to go out and watch it because it just looks really bad. I was like, you know what? Respect. I gotta respect that. But just looking over the grand scheme of the awards tonight, I guess The Brutalist was the biggest winner outside of Anora because it still took home 3 prizes. It won for Adrian Brody, it won for cinematography, it won for score. And I mean, yes, you could make the case it maybe could have won for more, but I mean, this still isn't a bad turnout, especially for a film that we've seen from a lot of our contemporaries like Ryan and some other people who have done preferential ballots, and Brutalist hasn't done great in a lot of those, whether they're from industry people or from fellow cinephiles like ourselves. So still winning 3 pretty big awards. Like all of these are very monumental, you could say, awards on the night. Like you say worst speech, and I do agree that it goes to song, but Brody's speech here was not one of the highlights of the night overall. And I like Brody too, but like it's been a continuous run with him this season where his speech is always kind of like the low point of the night. And I don't get it because he's a very charismatic guy and he gives interviews and he usually has some great stuff to say. I just don't know what it is about being on the award stage.
I think he just takes himself very, very seriously.
The
And
real Jeremy
so he
Strong.
he feels like he needs to say something really important, and then he ends up kind of just rambling. Or he feels that it's important to be heard more so. All right, I do want to just touch on I have ranked lists on Letterboxd of every single Oscar winner in every single category. Now, I haven't seen all of the Oscar winners across every category, but I do have lists that each have like 50, 60 winners in each of them. And of tonight's wins, I had 5 movies join my top tens in their respective categories. So makeup and hairstyling, The Substance is a top 10 win in makeup for me, for sure. As with sound for Dune Part 2, visual effects for Dune Part 2, score for The Brutalist, and actress for Mikey Madison. All 5 of those wins join my top tens in each of those categories. So why don't we touch on those Dune wins? We've talked a little bit about Brutalist. We've talked about Mikey Madison. I want to talk the Dune wins, and I want to talk substance.
I mean, let's go to the Dune wins. We saw with Avatar: The Way of Water. returning wins aren't always a guarantee, but they still went out of their way to give it for visual effects because that was undeniable. And I guess here with the Dune films, sound and visual effects are undeniable. I know there's a little bit of conversation. Well, can sound go another way? And while like it would have been cool to see go to Wicked because being a sucker for musicals and how they recorded the audio live on set, I was a big fan of that. But I mean, like I said this in our Best Picture Revisiting series. I've seen Dune in almost every format imaginable. Dolby, IMAX, the DGA theater, at home, in my bed. The sound is always just so impressive, so immersive, and so shaking, even if it's not in the grandest, most immersive cinema at all. And like that's a sign of a great winner. And I agree. Zone of Interest last year, Dune Part 2 this year. I'm so excited to see where this category goes next year.
The thing that I love about Dune sound, and I'm gonna apologize, Tony G. I know you're out there in the comments saying that it hurt your ears. I get that. I get that it's loud. I get that it hurt people's ears. For me, I have never heard a more well mixed loud movie where even though despite the fact that it was blowing my eardrums out, I could hear every single word. It's something that I think Christopher Nolan could take a lot of cues from because while it was this overwhelming wall of sound, not once does it sacrifice clarity. And I thought that was exceptional. I thought that was just brilliant work that they were able to do. And visual effects, I mean, goddamn, what a great winner in that category. It's like one of the best looking films that I've ever seen. I wish that it won cinematography. I wish. I mean, The Brutalist is a really good winner. It's definitely a very good one. Dune Part Two better than the first one in terms of how it looked. So, but visual effects, I'll take it. Great win. Now, Substance for makeup. How cool is that? Like when I saw that movie back in May at the Cannes Film Festival, never in a million years, never in a million billion fucking years would I have thought sitting in that screening as the people on both sides of me were covering their eyes. Never would I think that the Academy Awards would go for something like that. But they did. How cool is that?
Well, you want to know what's even cooler? Hold on. Wait for me, guys. This guy won an Academy Award. He helped me pick Flo to win animated feature. Okay, I'll let you walk away. But yes, Flo got a major win as The Tale is Still Here. Like that to me, that's one of the coolest wins of the night because I love Inside Out 2. I love The Wild Robot, but I also love Flo, and I think what it stands for being the first independent award winner in this category, a film without any lines of understandable dialogue. Like it breaks all the trends, all the norms of we know for this category. When we first started this channel, Disney was on a run between Disney and Pixar. And I remember our second ever episode here in Fantasy Filmball. It was about can Disney lose animated feature this year? And we gave up all the possible scenarios because Lightyear had just came out and it was so not it for a lot of people. And we've had three straight inspired, cool, individual, unique winners. And again, just like sound, I'm very interested to see where this goes next year.
And I got my cat here, also a huge fan of Flo. This is Totoro, so named because of Hayao Miyazaki. She does not want to be here. I'll let her down. Um, but yeah, I mean, Flo would not have been my vote in the category. However, I think it's the coolest winner that we've ever had in Best Animated Feature because it's not coming from a big studio. It's not coming from a legend of animation. It is someone young who just did a cool thing that anyone could do with free software. Anyone could make Flow. Not anyone can make The Wild Robot. Not anyone can make Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse or The Boy and the Heron. Anyone can access the tools to make Flow. And that is just so cool to me. And it's so inspirational to see someone who is in their late 20s, made their feature film debut by doing every single thing themselves, would have done every single thing themselves on Flow, but decided to get more people to help them just finish the film. It's a miracle. And I think that Gintz Zobolotis, he's got more coming. I think that we're going to be seeing him popping up in the best animated feature lineup a lot over the next few decades, honestly.
And we talked about this a little bit earlier in the episode, but to bring it back now, we talked about flow and animated, hopping over to documentary as well for No Other Land. Clearly this year, passion reigned supreme for these two. And like, yes, there are 5 potential winners in all of these categories. And I broke that down in our final predictions video of saying, well, technically all you need is 26% of the vote if it's going down the line in 5 ways. Clearly in both these categories, it was kind of a top 2, a top 3 situation. And we saw the film that while a lot of odds were working against them, Flo's chance, in Flo's case, there was no English dialogue, and it was from such a non-factoring distributor. And then the same thing in documentary with No Other Land, not having a distributor being a stance. While yes, a lot of people are in support of it, a lot of people, maybe even more vocally, are against that case. And it really came down to documentary feature this year of where's the competition. And that was my big thing of why I ultimately went with No Other Land. Is yes, there's so much working against the movie, but it's won almost everything it's been nominated for. And then it is the political issue of the moment, even if everyone doesn't agree. But if the vote split 5 ways, you just need one of every 5 people to go this way. And I'm not saying the vote was split 5 ways, but this year, without a very strong opposition, like where maybe if we had a Navalny here or something to that caliber, where maybe we could have seen it go somewhere else, or Superman, as we saw at the BAFTAs, here, Porcelain War, Soundtrack, Sugarcane Black Box Diaries, while all very good docs who all have their fans, they're not as rabid, and I mean that in a positive way. They're not as overwhelming support for this film, because if you go to like any pundit, anyone who follows awards season, anyone on our Discord, or any other Oscar forums, I guess, people want to see this movie win. And yes, us doesn't equal them in terms of the voting body, but when enough people are in unison, usually that does translate. And we saw that here with No Other Land.
Gotta say, best speech of the night. Best speech of the night by far. Getting up on that stage and spending your entire time just saying outright, Free Palestine, and what the US government is doing is enabling hate and enabling the continued oppression of the Palestinian people. That was incredibly powerful. Now, despite the fact that No Other Land was was my least favorite documentary in that category, I am very happy for this win because I think that those filmmakers deserved it. And I think that that cause deserved the platform that the Oscar stage gives a cause to be spoken about. Now, I do still think that that film is much more powerful as a concept than it is as a movie. I still don't love the film, although I love what it stands for. But that's a hill I'll die on. It doesn't matter. I'm happy that it won this award. I will say I went with Sugarcane because I was trying to follow the money. But here, passion triumphed. It was passion, passion, passion. I was really trying to do something, thinking, oh, because No Other Land has had chances to win and it's kind of lost at these different places, then maybe that means that something else can swoop in and take it. But nope, nope. I tried to pull a Godzilla -1 and it did not happen.
Here on this channel, we like to admit when we're wrong, and one of our biggest L's of the year as a whole was over in the Best Supporting Actor category, because all the way back to Sundance last year, we heard the early reception for A Real Pain, and a lot of people were like, Kieran Culkin, Oscar, end it, call it a day. And we're like, well, not so fast. These TV parallels don't always work, and I mean, this film clearly doesn't have the abundance of love and support it needs for a Best Picture nomination, and we kind of held to that for the majority of the season until Culkin started to win, and like, okay, well, he's going to probably win now. Picture we're still a little wary on, and I think we both ultimately ended up having our Best Picture lineup after that PGA mention at the end of the day, and it started to win a few extra things, not just for Culkin. So that's a lesson for us next year, is be a little bit more open to things that we are opposed to up front, but also don't cave at the last minute for things that we know for a fact probably won't happen. It's like, Culkin win, yeah. A Real Pain Best Picture, Maybe not. But yeah, Culkin wins here, and not to the level of No Other Land, but this was probably my favorite speech of the night. It was the best Culkin speech I think I've ever heard from him. It wasn't overtly self-deprecating. It was actually funny. It was charming. It reminded me a lot, oddly enough, of Robert Downey Jr.'s speeches because he did present him the award, and it felt like something Downey would give, where it's both funny, it's connecting to the audience, and it's bringing out other people and relating them into the conversation.
It felt genuine for once. I've never felt that his speeches have been genuine, but this one definitely was. Yeah, I mean, just a little teaser for something upcoming. I've been diving through old videos trying to look for quotes. And back in March last year, we talked about A Real Pain. We did not have it on our picture list. We did not have it on our supporting actor list. We did not have it in our screenplay list. Actually, I think I mentioned it for screenplay at one point. I mentioned that it was a possibility and it was worth taking into consideration for screenplay. But I said that's the only category that has even a remote chance of getting, and people are going to try to make Kieran Culkin happen, and it's not going to happen. Um, I was wrong. I was wrong, and I will hold that. Yeah, this is like the rare time when an Emmy winner has crossed over to the Oscars successfully. It rarely happens that way. So,
You know why it happened? You say successfully, it's close enough to Succession, and we had two Succession boys getting the supporting actor. And I mean, that was one of my favorite moments of the night. I felt like what Downey was saying to Strong, again, felt genuine, felt honest, and I really like that small moment between those two. But talking about holding L's, that same very early Oscar prediction video that we had last year, I remember saying Conclave is going to flop. Look at the screenwriter; he's got a bunch of shit to his name, and Conclave, it's not going to work out. Edward Berger can't have two bangers in a row. Well, he did, and screenplay, it swept the season. It wins here in adapted screenplay. I think this is a great win. I don't really think there's much to say about because we've known this winner has been the winner since, like, I don't know, October. But yeah, pretty good win. Do you have anything to say about Conclave?
No, I mean, we knew all along. I guess one thing I want to say is I don't want history to write it out of being number two in Best Picture because it would be very easy to look at this win stack up and say, well, The Brutalist won three and Conclave only won one. So The Brutalist must have been second place. No, it was Conclave. It was Conclave. Let's not rewrite history. We were terrified as shit that Conclave was going to win. Terrified is the wrong word because I know you prefer Conclave to Anora. I was terrified.
I think it's very similar to that Nomadland year, where clearly Nomadland by far was the winner. But I feel like in retrospect, people are kind of like, no, The Father was number two. That screenplay win, Anthony Hopkins, clearly big wins. When like all season long, Trial was always the main opposition. And yeah, maybe it underperformed the day of, but I think in all the categories where it lost, it probably was number two in like screenplay and like editing and supporting actor and probably in Best Picture as well. But talk about number twos. Next year, part two of Wicked's coming, and Wicked wins two awards here tonight. And I think that's the perfect way to close out this episode because Wicked wins costume design, it wins production design, and this is going back to what we talked about before of called shots and failed shots. Is a year ago, super high on Wicked, and then I dropped it before our first video, and I wish I did. I wish I did keep it, but I mean, I'm happy with these wins. I know there's always that corny stuff being like, oh, well, obviously they're going to give it to the thing that did the most extra thing. But I mean, like, Wicked, we talk about in our Best Picture Revisiting series, the little details they add to the costumes to make them not just beautiful looking, but intricate to the story. And the production design, like, what do they plant? Like 10,000, a million flowers? Like, it sounds corny, but, like, they did it. They built this. This wasn't location scouting. This was building from the ground up, and fantastic winner. And I know Dune repeated with two wins tonight, and I mean, I'm not saying book it for Wicked next year, but I think Wicked could be in consideration for maybe repeating at least one of these.
I feel like Wicked will win two awards next year. I don't think it'll be the same, but I think it's going to go very well for makeup, and I think it's going to go very well for song. And you know, I think it's going to get the same, a lot of the same nominations. It might miss one or two of them, like maybe it won't make editing next year. But I've seen so many people out there say that Wicked for Good is not going to perform as well, and it's not going to make picture. It's going to be left off all of these places. I don't see that because I think that the cultural phenomenon of it is going to carry through to this year. Again, going back to our first predictions, which I was looking at today, the thing that I was saying about Wicked, you had it at number 11. Kudos to you. That's a really good spot to have it. But what I had it at number 18 at the time, and what I said was, I think this is still going to make all the tech categories. I think it's going to make 200 plus million dollars. I think it's going to be a cultural sensation. People are going to love it. Um, and I don't know how I didn't connect the dots that if it was going to make a ton of money and that people were going to like it and that it was going to be nominated for all the techs, I don't know how in my brain I went, but it's not going to be a big player in anything else.
Hmm.
That's
Yeah.
that's very silly looking back. And I'm going to say that next year I see no reason to doubt. This is not Joker Folie à Deux. This is not a film going from being a massive sensation to nothing. This is very likely we're going to see Cynthia and Ariana opening next year's ceremony as well. Which, can we talk about that for a second?
It's
Can we talk about
great.
that for a
It's
second?
great.
Incredible. 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 The fact that they went from The Wizard of Oz to The Wiz, which also two performances for The Wiz. That's that's cool. I like that. And then to Defying Gravity, which like imagine being as nervous as Cynthia Erivo probably was because she was there waiting for an award and then having to belt Defying Gravity. At, uh, how do you do that? How does your voice not fray out of the nerves of waiting for your name to possibly be called?
To your first point of like Wicked last year, I feel equally as dumb because like I was even expecting bigger things than you were. Like I had Grande in the realm of supporting actress, and I had I think even more text.
I
Even
made
more
fun of you
text.
for.
I mean. I made fun of you for Borisov, so it's even. We call it even. But like, my big holdup last year wasn't any of that. It was just like, well, Universal has other movies on their play. They have Nosferatu. That's their film, and like Nosferatu did good. It didn't do that good, and if I would have flipped the two, probably would have been a little bit better in those early predictions. But yeah, in terms of this performance here at the Academy Awards, like there was so much hate online when people saw that they weren't doing the original songs. They're going to give Wicked this space. They're going to give these random pop girlies another space. And I feel like all of these performances really knocked it out. And I really like the presentation segment of the original song nominees. Honestly, I think that's better than forcing them to perform songs that more often than not aren't songs really meant to be performed on like an award stage. Like I think two songs like from Everything Everywhere where like that song works because of the film that it's in. And like this year we would have had a similar situation where like if El Mal was performed, like no offense to Saldana or whoever they would have had to perform it, it would not have been as good as it was in the film. So allowing the creatives involved to really explain their process, what the song meant, and that aspect I feel like amplifies those songs where like yeah you can go look up the performance of those songs online and hear and you can hear them inside of the film that they're present from. But yeah, Grande, Arrivo, they knock out of the park. I mean, she's one of the greatest singers of our generation for a reason, and I'm really excited to see what they do next year if they are invited back to perform again. But I really like the James Bond tribute as well. Like, these songs are legendary for a reason, and giving fresh new voices to give them a spin, while, yeah, maybe they aren't the originals, they're still pretty great songs regardless of who performs them.
Overall, I thought this was a really good ceremony. It didn't feel overlong. Good performances. I liked the way that they presented both cinematography and costume design, which I think are both fields that are so intimately connected to the actors. So I think that the fact that the actors got to speak about those craft people is really, I thought that was powerful. I would have loved to see that for makeup as well, but I understand why maybe it wasn't. Um, but overall, I had a blast watching this year's Oscars. I had a blast following this year's Oscars, even though the discourse online was more exhausting than I think ever before. Um, I had a good time this year, and I'm happy with how it turned out overall.
And I know there was this looming presence at the start of the award season of the Academy tends to the Academy tends to go in years of twos, where they do two great winners and then a winner that is kind of whatever. And even though I'm not head over heels for Anora is not an awful winner. It's not going to go down in history as one of these weird films that won Best Picture that no one cares about in like 5 years' time. Like, no, I think we're on a stretch of 3 good to great to outstanding winners, and I'm really excited to see if 2026 can make that 4 straight years.
Anyways, thank you so much for watching. As always, my name's Matt.
My name's Dyl, and this has been Fantasy Filmball.